Hey there, I'm DGW and welcome back to the channel. So first of all, congratulations on getting your hands on Hell Let Loose, which is arguably one of the best or the best World War II shooter out there. As the game can be very overwhelming and you're gonna die a hell of a lot of times in the first few rounds, I hope that these tutorial videos that I'm putting out are gonna help you get your bearings in the game. Before we get into the video, you know the drill. Leave a like if you like the video, leave a comment if you've got any questions or suggestions, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Now in my previous tutorial, the 10 tips for Hell Let Loose, I kind of covered which roles you have to take, etc. So I'm not going to dive into that right now. Going further and deeper into roles is something for a whole nother set of videos altogether. So right now I assume you've gotten into a server, you picked a side and you picked a role. Next up is spawning into the battlefield. For spawning you've got a couple of options, essentially 3, maybe 4 depending on whether or not the commander is issuing a airhead. Now your most basic spawn will be the HQ spawns. You will always have 3 of these available unless one of them gets overrun by the enemy. That generally only happens when the enemy is capturing your last objective. This overrun status protects you from being spawn killed all the time, so that the enemy cannot milk such a situation. Spawning in the HQ sector does have one disadvantage, it's the long travel times that you will have in between you and the point that you want to be. Especially if there's no transportation trucks available, it will take you a while to get to the front line. And as there's no walking XP in this game, this is kind of a grind. Now next up is your garrisons. Garrisons are placed by either the commander or squad leaders, except for tank commanders. Every team can build 8 garrisons, and my suggestion is always to have at least 8 garrisons up. Now take that with a grain of salt, but having 8 garrisons or as many as possible up will give your team a lot of options to get into the battle. You can always take a garrison down if you don't need it anymore and build a new one further up. Having as many possible options as you can enables your team to respond to any situation quickly and redeploy to an area where the support of the team or at least a couple of squads is required. Other than that, having enough garrisons around gives your team the option to flank the enemy if you're attacking. This in turn creates more than one large front and allows several smaller fronts in which you might be able to overwhelm the enemy at some slightly under-defended position. Now, garrisons can be placed in the friendly territory as well as the first 2 blocks up in enemy territory. They have to be placed 200 meters apart, which by the way is one of those large squares on the map. In friendly territory they will cost 50 supplies, which is either provided by a supply drop from the commander, your support player in game who has a box with supplies, or the supply truck that has 2 crates of 150 supplies available. In friendly territory the garrisons, as well as OPs by the way, which is the next spawn option we'll be talking about, will light up as soon as enemies get within 50 meters of it. So keeping a close eye on your map will alert you to enemies in a certain area before it really gets a nuisance. Garrisons in enemy territory, however, are overrun as soon as an enemy gets within 100 meters. So placing them slightly further away from where you're actually having the battle is a smart thing to do, otherwise they're just going to get overrun really quickly and you lose that spawn option altogether. One quick note, you cannot place garrisons when an area is neutral, so all the way in the beginning of the battle there's no point in trying to get a garrison up in the neutral central area because it's not going to work. Early in the game you have to get a garrison up at your first defended point, so the second point on the map, as well as get 2 garrisons up for the attack as soon as you can. This allows you to already start flanking the area. There is a possibility you might not be able to capture the center point, so if you've got 2 attacking garrisons already built, maybe a third one later on, it will give you plenty of options to keep attacking that center point and maybe get it really quickly. As soon as you capture a point, whatever point on the map that is, try and get at least 1 garrison up as soon as you can, somewhere around the stronghold. Not necessarily inside a stronghold, because a bombing run or a couple of artillery shells might actually take it down before you can even establish a proper defense. After that first one is up, it is very wise to get at least 1 more alternative spawn up, maybe a second spawn, depending how the battle has been going so far. Now your third standard spawn option will be your OP. All squad leaders except for the tank commander can build an OP. An OP does not cost any resources, however there is a 2-minute wait time after one gets built. Also, unlike a garrison, only the squad that built the OP can spawn on that OP. As for the radar function, the OP works exactly the same as the garrison. In friendly territory it will light up as soon as an enemy gets within 50 meters. However, the same applies in enemy territory for OPs. It does light up when an enemy is within 50 meters, but it does stay active, whereas a friendly garrison in enemy territory will get overrun as soon as an enemy is within 100 meters. Before we move on to the last spawn option, which is the airhead, let's quickly talk about what you should do with enemy garrisons and OPs. Now this reverts back to the mindset change I talked about in the previous tutorial. This game is not about killing enemies, this game is about map control. If you're just sitting there and shooting at enemies, they're just gonna keep coming in wave after wave after wave. If you don't take down the spawn options, they're gonna continue to have access to that area, and there's no real way to conquer the area. However, if you're able to take down the garrisons or OPs or even airheads if they've dropped some, they will not have access to the area and they cannot really defend or attack. It will give you and your team the ability to capture or defend that area much more effectively. So in order to win a battle, defend a point or attack a point, it is essential you take down the enemy spawn options. For garrisons, this means that you will have to walk up close and hold F. After a couple of seconds, that garrison is destroyed. While you're doing this, no enemies can spawn on that garrison. However, that garrison will appear as an overrun garrison on their maps, so they might come looking for you. Keep your eyes and ears open. Another way to take down a garrison is to shoot an AT rocket at it if you happen to be AT. Other options are AT guns and tank rounds, but they have to be direct hits. And lastly, direct hits from bombing runs and artillery shells will take them down as well. As for OPs, they're a bit easier to take down. Just walk by them closely and they will already disappear. Throw a grenade in the general direction, as well as any kind of other explosions in the general proximity of that OP will destroy it. Now the last spawn option is the so-called airhead, which is kind of you parachuting into the area, if you will. The airhead functions exactly like a garrison, although it doesn't get overrun in enemy territory like a normal garrison would, and it can only be issued by the commander. Now a quick note, anything the commander wants to issue requires resources, so he can only do things if he has those resources available. Also, anything the commander does has delay timers. These are specific to the certain actions, but just keep in mind he cannot put 5 airheads up in 4 minutes. An airhead will take about a minute to set up and then is available for 2 minutes. So it is imperative that squad leaders spawning there get their OPs up as soon as they can. A second option would be for the commander to also drop supplies near that area, so a garrison can be built as well. When it comes to taking down enemy airheads, it works exactly the same as garrisons. You either walk up close or you need a direct hit from explosive shells. Now the last part of the video is kind of an extension of what we've already covered when it came to garrisons. It's the placement where you want to put them. As I've said before, the placement of garrisons as well as OPs is essential. It allows you to access areas if need be and alerts you to enemies that are trying to cross a certain area. Now the map on screen is an example from one of the battles I played recently. I've circled all the available garrisons as well as pointed at the airhead that is up and coming. Apart from having one in the defended stronghold, we also have an alternative one on the left side as well as a defended garrison on the point behind it. Now as to the garrison all the way to the right, I think that was put up so engineers could build some nodes over there, but it doesn't serve any other function than that, as it is too far away from literally anything to be effective as a flank or a defending flank. Now I've drawn in a couple of better options. As far as the garrisons on the strongholds as well as the one alternative to the left, they're pretty much fine. But I would put another alternative one on the right. Next, I tried to get at least 2 attacking garrisons up, kind of linear to the one on the left and the right. And lastly, try and get 1, maybe if possible 2 garrisons up in enemy territory, allowing you to flank from all sides. Now if getting those up is actually achievable obviously depends on the quality of the enemy players as well as your own players as well as the commander and squad leaders and so on and so on. But this basic idea can obviously be translated to the situation at hand. Now this map I've added in where most of the battle will take place. Your attack will be the red square and the enemy's attack will be the orange square. That's where the main battle will focus. Now any half decent enemy team will attempt to flank you, as shown by the black arrows on screen. And now you will understand where those flanking garrisons, alternative garrisons if you will, come in handy. These will first of all alert you to that flank happening as well as give you access to attack that flank. Now this last map shows you your flanking options towards the enemy, as well as your options to counter any enemy attacks and get them from the sides. The theory behind it is it will actually create their main battle, which is the orange square, to have to fight on three sides, not only towards the stronghold but also left and right. And as said, having those sides under control will also allow you to counter their flanks. Quickly disregarding your friendly airhead, you've got a couple of attacking options as well. You've got 2 attacking garrisons in friendly territory and 2 attacking garrisons in enemy territory. Having those garrisons in enemy territory a bit further from the stronghold will likely, or at least hopefully, prevent them from getting overrun too quickly. Now as it comes to placing the OPs in this battle as well, you can place them if a certain area is not really guarded by a garrison, and as such the radar function will alert you when an enemy is approaching over there. In the attacking sense, the OP can be placed a lot closer to the enemy's stronghold, but obviously don't clutter them together, because a single enemy soldier just strolling about might be able to take him down. Keep your OPs separate from each other, leave at least 50 meters in between them if you can. In a defending sense, again, this acts as the radar function, and in the attacking sense, if one squad loses its OP, other squads can still keep up the fight, thus allowing that squad that lost their OP to get back through one of the garrisons into that area and place a new OP. And a pro tip for squad leaders, please put your OPs down. As soon as you lose it, put a new one down. It is your foremost priority to get a OP down and allow your squad to spawn. If it would be useful and possible, get a garrison down in that area as well, so the entire team can benefit from, say, your flanking efforts. So this has become quite a long video, just about spawns. First of all, I hope I've covered all the important aspects of it, and secondly, I hope it helps you trying to understand what options you have, why it is important to have as many as possible, and the essence of taking down enemy spawns. I've said it before and I'll say it again, killing in this game is a means to an end, not a goal in itself. Now I realize these tutorial videos can be a bit long and boring, I'm very sorry for that, but I want to try and get as much information over to you as I can. So hopefully you've been able to stick around until the end of this video. In the next tutorial I will go into the basics of the gameplay, so movement, the resource and nodes, etc. And after that I'll start working on all those roles. Now then, all that remains is to thank you for watching, and remember, leave a like, leave a comment if you got any questions or suggestions, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.